No one in Kibora village celebrated the new year the way other places did. There were no fireworks, no loud laughter, no shouting countdowns. When the last sun of the year sank behind the trees, the village grew quiet. The kind of quiet that feels watched. Children were called indoors early. Doors were bolted. Oil lamps were lit and placed low, close to the ground. And far beyond the huts, in the open clearing where no one lived anymore, the drums were waiting. Kibora sat between a river that never fully dried and a forest that never fully slept. The elders said the land remembered everything. The step, blood, even time itself. Every year on the final night, the villagers gathered, not to welcome a new year, but to survive the counting. Ao had just turned 17. He stood at the doorway of his mother's hut, fingers tight around the rough wood, watching shadows stretch as the sky darkened. The air smelled of smoke and damp earth. Somewhere, a dog whimpered and then went silent. "Come inside," his mother whispered sharply. Before the first beat, her voice shook. She tried to hide it, but Ao heard. "I just want to see," he said softly. "Just once." She turned to him, eyes wide, fear naked and unhidden. "Seeing is how it starts." That sentence had been spoken in Kibora for generations. Ao stepped back inside. The hut felt smaller than usual. The walls seemed closer. The lamp flame flickered even though there was no wind. Outside, far away, a single drum sounded. Not loud, not fast, just deep and final. Ao's chest tightened. That was the first rule. The drums only began when the old year was already dead. Long ago, before Ao was born, before his mother was born, before the names of things were written, the village had made a promise. No one remembered the exact words. Only the price. The elders said the ancestors once saved Kibora from a year that refused to end. Crops rotted without harvest. Children aged but were not allowed to grow. Death wandered, confused and angry. So the village called to the spirits of time. And time answered. Every New Year's night the drums would count. Not seconds, not minutes, lives. One beat, for one soul, who would not see the end of the coming year. The drums never explained. They never repeated. They only counted. A second beat rolled through the ground. The lamp flame trembled. Ao swallowed. "How many last year?" he asked quietly. His mother didn't answer at first. 5, she finally said. 5 beats. 5 people had died before the next new year arrived. Accidents, sickness, 1 drowning. 1 man who simply walked into the forest and never returned. No one said the word chosen. They said counted. Across the village, old men and women sat in silence, listening. Some pressed their palms to the earth. Others covered their ears, though it never helped. In the hut beside the clearing, Nana Kofi, the oldest elder, sat alone. His back was bent like a question that had never been answered. Before him lay a bundle of white cloth, and beneath it the drums. 3 of them, carved from a tree struck by lightning decades ago. The skins were stretched tight, too tight, as if they were holding something inside. Nana Kofi did not strike them. He never had. No one did. When the time came, the drums played themselves. 3rd beat. Ao's heart began to race. Each beat felt closer than the last. Not in sound, but in meaning. His younger sister, Lela, clutched his arm. "Does it hurt?" she whispered. "Does what hurt?" he asked. Being counted. He didn't know how to answer. Outside the wind shifted, carried something with it. A smell not of smoke or earth, but of rain that hadn't fallen yet. Fourth beat. Somewhere in the village. The wind carried whispers. Not the wind through trees or chimneys, but voices, soft, almost human, yet twisted, like the echo of someone calling from far away. A small fire flickered outside the hut where Lemba crouched, wrapping her shawl tightly around her shoulders. She had seen the strange lights earlier, dancing between the rooftops, hovering above the river. Her grandmother had warned her over and over. The old year does not leave quietly. It remembers every shadow, every secret, every wrong done in the village. The first stroke of midnight would come soon. Her heart pounded against her ribs. She wanted to call for someone, anyone, but the voices had a way of making the familiar sound alien. Even the dogs had stopped barking hours ago. Silence stretched over the village like a heavy blanket. The lanterns along the main street dimmed on their own. One by one, the flames bent toward a single point near the old river bridge. Lemba's eyes widened. She remembered the stories, the New Year spirits that claimed the careless, that danced along the waters to pull them in, claiming names for the year ahead. A faint shimmer appeared in the mist. First a glow, then a flicker, like a lantern swinging in someone else's hands. She could feel it before she saw it. A pull, a tug in her chest, almost magnetic, as if the village itself was bending toward that point. "Do not follow it," her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory, sharp and urgent. "Once it chooses, it will take what it wants. No one can stop it." But Lemba was already moving. Her curiosity, her fear, her defiance all tangled together, pulling her closer to the bridge. The mist thickened, curling around her ankles, whispering, "Your name, your name." A sudden sound made her stop. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoing in rhythm with her own heartbeat. But there was no one there. The mist shifted, revealing shadows taller than men, limbs long and thin, faces featureless. She stumbled backward. Her lantern fell, the glass shattering. A scream caught in her throat as the shadows advanced, silent yet deliberate, almost aware of her panic. From the river came a ripple. Something moved beneath the surface, something large, pale, and impossibly fast. The water hissed and hissed again, as though alive, speaking in a language older than the village itself. Lemba's breath caught. She fell to her knees. The shadows circled her, their whispers growing louder, forming words she almost understood. Every new year, one name, one soul, one debt. And then silence. The first bell struck. Not the village bell, but something ancient. Resonant. It vibrated through her bones. Lemba felt herself lifted, her hair standing on end. She turned toward the sound, and there on the bridge she saw it. A figure cloaked in black, taller than any man, face hidden, hands folded, motionless, but somehow watching. It was the collector. She had only heard of him in the stories whispered by elders around dying fires. The spirit that claimed the first name of each new year, marking the village with its curse. The figure did not move, yet she felt its gaze pierce her. Another bell struck. Closer. The mist convulsed. Shadows twined around the trees, the houses, the empty streets. Lemba could no longer tell where the mist ended and reality began. Her grandmother's words returned to her, sharper this time. Some names are not spoken. Some souls are not free. Do not tempt the new year. Sees. Chooses. It remembers. The third bell rang. The air vibrated. A cold, wet hand seemed to brush her shoulder. She spun around. No one was there, but the whisper followed. Next year, it will be you. Lemba scrambled backward, tripping over roots, stones, and forgotten bones buried beneath the earth. The bridge seemed to stretch, elongate, reaching farther into the darkness than it should. Lanterns swayed, casting impossible shadows that moved against the wind. She wanted to run back to the safety of the village square, but the path had disappeared. The streets had shifted, twisted into something unfamiliar. The houses loomed taller, the windows glinting like watchful eyes. Somewhere behind her, the collector moved. Not with steps but with presence. A vibration in the air, a pressure on the chest, a certainty that she could not escape. Lemba sank to the ground, her fingers digging into the cold earth. The bell tolled once more, this time inside her head, inside her chest. She felt her name echo in the void. And then, darkness. The last thing she remembered before being pulled into the mist was a whisper, soft but insistent. Every new year one name. And this year, you were chosen first. Her grandmother's hut was silent when the villagers returned in the morning. The river flowed as if nothing had happened. Lanterns hung limp in the mist. But one thing had changed, a faint imprint on the bridge. A name scratched deep into the wood. Faint, jagged letters spelling Lemba. And far away the mist swirled, waiting. The village woke to a strange stillness. Not the quiet of dawn, but a silence that pressed against the eaves, made the walls sigh, and made every bird hold its breath. Dogs did not bark. Smoke curled from chimneys, but no hearth seemed warm. The villagers whispered among themselves, fear gnawing at the edges of their voices. Lemba did not return. Her grandmother, frail but sharp-eyed, knelt by the window, staring at the bridge. The mist had thinned, but the imprint of her granddaughter's name remained, faint and clawed into the wood. "She has been chosen," the grandmother muttered, voice trembling but resolute. "The collector walks tonight. And it will not be stopped by prayers or panic." From deep in the village, the bells of St. Abiola's church rang. Not the usual chimes that called for worship, but low, uneven tolls that shook the earth and rattled the teeth. The villagers looked at one another, fear wide-eyed and silent. And then the shadows came. First they were subtle, a flicker at the corner of the eye, swaying in the mist. Trees bending impossibly toward paths they should not. But soon the forms became more definite, tall, featureless humanoid shapes that glided along the streets without a sound. Each shadow seemed aware, watching, waiting, circling the homes like predators sizing up prey. From the river, the water hissed and frothed, forming shapes that mimicked human faces, mouths opening in silent screams. Lanterns swung violently in the windless air, casting grotesque, leaping shadows. The villagers tried to flee. Mothers clutched their children, and men grabbed staffs and machetes, but no one could pierce the mist. It twisted around them, bending streets, blocking paths, guiding them silently toward the bridge where Lemba had vanished. Inside the mist, the collector appeared. Not in the form of a man, not yet, but as a mass of shadow and cold, a presence that warped the air and drew the warmth from bodies. Its face remained hidden, cloaked in impossibility, but Lemba could feel it everywhere at once, probing, testing, consuming. "You cannot hide," it whispered, a voice that was not a voice but the echo of 1,000 names, 1,000 screams. "I choose. Remember. I take." Lemba stumbled through the mist, trying to find anything familiar. Houses became strange towers, streets elongated, alleys twisted into impossible angles. Every step forward brought her closer to the river's edge and farther from safety. She passed figures, shapes of villagers she knew, but twisted, hollowed. Eyes empty, faces stretched as if they had been carved from shadows. They reached for her silent, patient. Each touch made her chest ache, as if her own life were being siphoned into the air around her. She remembered the stories her grandmother had whispered by the fire. "Those taken before you are not gone. They wait in the spaces between the world and the next, feeding the collector. Their voices call to the living, dragging them toward the bridge. A sudden gust lifted her hair. The collector's presence was closer now. She could feel the cold of its hands brushing her shoulders, the tug at her soul. A shadow leaned from the mist, long arms stretching impossibly. She screamed, but no sound left her lips, only a vibration, a hum, a thrum in her chest. From the far side of the village, a lone lantern flickered. It was her grandmother. She stepped into the mist, arms outstretched, chanting prayers in a low, guttural voice. Words older than the village, older than memory, but even she could not push the collector back. The mist twisted around her, bending her voice, amplifying the shadows. Lemba reached the riverbank. The water was alive, shimmering with impossible colors, reflections of faces she did not recognize, mouths opening silently. Something beneath the surface writhed, pale and long, rising just enough to make her scream. The collector's shadow swept over the river. Its voice whispered, now unmistakable. Your name, your essence. Your debt belongs to me. You were chosen first, and first you shall fall. Her grandmother appeared beside her, but even she trembled. The bridge. The bridge is the gateway. You must step forward willingly, or be consumed where you stand. Lemba's legs shook. The mist seemed to breathe. The shadows encircled her, pressing closer, whispering her name, mocking her fear, promising her fate. With a deep, shuddering breath, she stepped onto the bridge. The mist rose, twisting around her, and the river below began to shimmer with shapes that wanted to pull her down. The bridge seemed endless, stretching into darkness. The collector materialized fully at the far end, taller than any man, its hands blackened, its cloak flowing like liquid shadow. Its face remained hidden. You came, it said, voice like cracking ice. And you step forward willingly. That is rare. Few ever do. Lemba shivered. The shadows behind her surged. Voices screamed in unison, a cacophony of souls lost to years past. The river hissed. Lanterns swayed violently. The mist pressed against her skin. You must choose, the collector whispered. Offer me another, or join the list yourself. She hesitated, the weight of the village, her family, the countless names that had come before pressing down on her. Her heart pounded. She could feel the first spark of courage, of defiance, and the icy brush of inevitable death at the same time. The first strike of midnight sounded, a bell echoing from somewhere deep beneath the village, and everything froze. The shadows paused. The river stilled. Even the wind halted. The collector tilted its head. Decide, child. Your name waits. And so does the next. Lemba's breath caught. The choice would shape the night, the year, and the fate of the village itself. The bridge trembled beneath Lemba's feet. The mist twisted around her ankles, crawling like cold fingers, whispering names she had never heard but somehow knew. Every step toward the collector felt like walking through ice, her blood slowing, her heart hammering. You have come willingly, the collector said, voice curling through the mist like smoke. Few do. Fewer survive. Behind her the shadows surged. Figures from the village, hollowed and featureless, reached toward her, moaning silently. Their eyes, empty sockets filled with despair, followed her every move. She stumbled, but something inside her, memory, courage, love for her people, kept her moving forward. Her grandmother's voice rang in her ears. Do not fear, child. Step forward, but see clearly what you offer, and what you claim. The collector extended a hand, blackened and cracked, fingers like skeletal vines. The air grew heavier. The mist thickened, making it almost impossible to see. Shapes writhed inside it. Village elders, children, even animals long gone, all reaching for Lemba. You may give me another, or you may become part of the list yourself, it hissed. The choice is yours. Lemba's lungs burned. Her mind raced. Names flickered in her head. The villagers, her friends, her family. Could she choose? Could she condemn another to save herself? And then she realized. The collector did not need another. Needed fear. Hesitation. Every second she lingered fed it, made it stronger. Her eyes widened. The shadows shrank slightly as she understood the truth. To survive, she had to refuse. She had to face it with courage. Leave them, she whispered, voice shaking but firm. I am the one you want. Take me, not them. The collector paused. Its presence pulsed with darkness. The mist recoiled slightly, like a storm paused before a strike. Then it laughed, a sound like cracking ice and rusted metal. You are brave, it said slowly, deliberately. But bravery comes at a cost. The bridge shuddered violently. The shadows screamed, twisting, writhing, pulling at her. She felt her soul tugging toward the darkness, her body teetering at the edge of the mist and the void below. And then, the first stroke of New Year. A single bell rang, not from the church, but from the bridge beneath her feet. Clear, piercing, echoing through the mountains and hills. It split the mist, slicing through the shadows, shaking the collector. Something in the mist screamed. Shapes evaporated. The collector recoiled, darkness swirling around it like smoke caught in wind. You dare, it hissed. Lemba stepped forward, lantern held high, and shouted. I am not afraid. The mist shattered like glass. Shadows scattered. The river below calmed, reflecting the first streaks of dawn. The bridge stretched normally now, unbroken, as if the night had been a test. The collector screamed, a sound that shook the village for miles, and then vanished. Its final words echoed in the air. This is not the end. The debt remains. Names will be added, always. Lemba fell to her knees, gasping. The mist cleared. The villagers slowly emerged from their homes, blinking at the early light. They had been frozen, trapped in their own fear, watching the shadows and the bridge. Her grandmother appeared, hands trembling but steady. She took Lemba's hand and whispered, You have survived, child. But remember, every new year the collector may return. Courage is your only shield. The villagers began to murmur, relief flooding their faces. But Lemba noticed the bridge once again, barely visible, faintly glowing in the early dawn light. A name flickered across the planks. Lemba. He shivered. The collector had marked her, not as a victim, but as a witness, a guardian, and a warning. Remember, some names are written not in ink, but in fear. Every new year, the bridge waits, the mist watches, and the collector remembers. Will you be brave enough to face it, or will your name be added next? If you want more haunted tales of African folklore, subscribe, turn on notifications, and step carefully into the shadows with us. And don't blink. You might just see your own name.